information by putting them in a closed session. But in the end, the biggest danger to these sources of information is the government, the one who's going to be prosecuted after we get this information. And they're saying that they're going to give the names of these people towards this defendant. They're going to give who these people are, and in the end, they're going to put the witness protection program after. We said that even a witness protection program is not effective in safeguarding our people as a source of information. Because we say that this, for first of all, we don't even know who are they going to be we don't even know who they're going to be putting in this witness protection program, because we think that the act of journalism is always getting a lot of sources from individuals, and we say that it's not that easy for them to go right back and then take all these people and put them in a witness protection program. We also said that the information uncovered usually involves by journalists are that massive that it comes from inside government officials who don't want to be with their government anymore. It also comes from the military. It also comes from the civilians. People who also have an interest to stay in their country to make sure that it's still stable even after the government is prosecuted, meaning that the tendency for them to go to the witness protection program is not going to be that high, and it's also not going to be effective for the rebuilding of the society after that. That's why we as the negative side of the house believe that we should not force journalists to reveal their sources in international criminal tribunals. And we're going to show that to you why by first beginning to you how it's not even the right of this international criminal tribunal to force these journalists, because it will be breaching their responsibility. And second of all, we're going to talk about how it will harm the process of information giving, because the most important thing in the tribunal is the fact that information is uncovered. But before that, we also like to give a few points of rebuttal towards the affirmative side of the house. The first point on how it's important to reveal the sources, because we need it to be reliable so that we can check credibility. Exactly that, ladies and gentlemen. These journalists are not the sole point of information where we're going to get this truth uncovered from in this war. We think that the fact that these journalists are giving information can be a good starting point for us to know which part of the country is most in danger, which part in this happened. We think that journalists also has an interest in giving a certain measure of credibility towards their information. They are going to say that this comes from the civilians, or that this happened inside the government, but they are not going to specify who exactly the person is for the purpose of securing that person. And we say that in this process, the purpose of credibility and cross-checking can still happen, because the ICC also has their own truth-seeking information body that is going to go over those events that these journalists reported and look for themselves for evidences. Secondly, on their idea how they believe that because this is a crime against humanity, the fact that we have a credible source is very important. We see that they're not actually analyzing where crimes against humanity are happening, because it happens in closed areas, in places where the government closes access to outside places because they don't want people to be against them. We say that in this point, what the most important thing for us to have is to actually have information uncovered. If we limit ourselves to only uncovering these credible sources, which they say is only from journalists, we say we're only going to get a little amount of information. That in fact what we need is a certain systematic analysis of what happened in that country, and that's only going to provide when we have the freedom to uncover information. Yes, sir.
The problem here is that while the journalists have interest to my credibility, those doesn't fly in the standards that's provided by the court, because the court have to be very certain that their evidence is right.
Right, but we think that the standard of information, even though it's less credible, is okay, because we need information as a starting point to start analyzing which part of the country that the genocide was most important in. But if they're worried about credibility, the ICC also has their own body, for God's sake, to go into that country and look for information themselves without taking away the credibility of these journalists. But now going on to our arguments. First, on how we believe that this would be breaching the rights and responsibility of war journalists. We think that the rights and responsibility of war journalists are two. First, they have a responsibility to the source that gives them information, and then they also have the responsibility towards society in uncovering information for the protection and the needs of the society to know. But on the first idea on how we believe is responsibility to source of information, we think that the information that's in the hands of these journalists is not actually their own information, that it has been trusted to them by other parties in society. That's why, for example, when journalists are going and questioning people, they always ask the person who gives the information how they would like this information to be used. That's why we have situations like where people say that we want this to be off the record, maintaining that these journalists do not have the right to give this information towards other people. people. That's also why we were so outraged by the fact that Bradley Manning in WikiLeaks used the information which he might have the right to know, but other people don't have the right to know, and giving it to other people. We say that if the right of how information is used is always in the right, is always in the right of the person who gives the information, and not as the person who's being trusted with that information. And we think that in fact, these journalists who are having information from sources who are scared of them being caught out has a responsibility to maintain the trust and maintain their commitment towards these sources, that they're not going to use this information unfairly. That in fact the government is not only going to be breaching the journalists' rights, they're also going to be breaching the victims' rights who are so willing to give information towards this journalists. And that's why we believe that this is principally unjustifiable for them to do. Secondly, on how we believe that this would harm the process of information giving. We think that as the ICC, what we want to happen is that they're able to punish the perpetrators to protect society, and also to uncover truth for the society. But from these two things, we can see that the basic idea is that how we have to recover as much information as possible from these governments, from these occurrences. That we believe forcing to reveal sources is going to cause two things. First of all, that people are less likely to want to give information, and second of all, that the journalists are going to be less credible. On the idea that people are going to be less likely to give information, we have to maintain that these occurrences, genocide and all those crimes against humanity, are causing harms not only to the civilians, but also to the people in the government, and also to military officials who say might actually be against this genocide. That we also say that they have an interest in keeping themselves in the country to stop the government going away. And when they know that they might be targeted by their own government when the process of ICC is happening, and the government may go after them when they know that they are the source of this information, we say that it's going to be very problematic for them, and they're going to keep silent instead of giving information towards these journalists. We also say that it makes the journalists less credible, because now they're seen as an untrustable journalist, as someone who is working for the other side, as someone who is potentially endangering them, just like their government was potentially endangering them. And we say that that also results in less information given. And we say that because we want information to be uncovered,